All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. My mic is peaking a lot. Hold on. What's up with that? Okay. Hold on. Pretty sure. Gotta mess with the settings. Okay, sorry about that. Why does it keep doing that, dude? I checked it yesterday and it was fine. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be fine today. Sorry about that. I think the audio is being picked up from my webcam again for some reason. So let me just adjust this a little bit further. Okay, we should be at normal audio levels. I apologize. Don't know why that happened again, but yeah. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for waiting patiently for the intro to finish up. We have KaneZ7 saying, hey, ABG in chat. Did you guys see Zubitech's tweet about the possible PlayStation 6 hardware specifications? It's based on a similar post by Moore's Law is Dead. Cool. No, I actually didn't see that. Maybe I'll look into it. We are talking about the PlayStation 6 today and how the president of Netflix is throwing some shade at the PlayStation 6 and at consoles somewhat. So we'll discuss that. Michael Lynch with a super chat says, Netflix downplaying the PS6 is absurd. They know they don't have a console that can come anywhere close to competing. All they can do is downplay. I mean, yeah, it's not a great look, I would say, for Netflix in the bigger picture, just because, I mean, I think Netflix doesn't really have the strongest presence in gaming. But at the same time, yeah, they're not in the console race. You know what I mean? They don't care about the console at all. So like they have no horse in that race. So it's in their best interest to downplay it. But I don't know, man. I think he's wrong. Not completely wrong, but we'll dive deeper into that discussion. Did I see Colin Moriarty make a video about the Steam Xbox thing? It was pretty interesting. I did, yeah, and it was interesting to see some of the reactions. It seems like Colin Moriarty was approaching that video, or his approach in general was from a more business oriented, aspect. I would say, basically talking about like why it doesn't make sense for Xbox, and I did see some people responding to it by being like, well, who cares? This is good for consumers and this is good for us. And it's like, yeah, I mean, again, there are different angles from which you can kind of navigate that topic. And I've navigated it from every angle, and people cherry pick the angles that they want to use against me and weaponize against me, of course. And, to me, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, if it happens, it happens. If not, whatever, Game streaming is far away from being real. Well, guys, today we are going to be talking about the PlayStation 6 and how the president of Netflix seems to be downplaying it, or at the very least expressing that there's really not going to be that much interest in the PlayStation 6 from a from the youth, I guess you could say, from the younger gaming audience. And we're also talking about Neil Druckmann just straight up saying Joel was right, bro. Never thought I'd see the day. Neil Druckmann answered the question, and he gave us a firm answer, which is interesting. So we'll talk about that as well. Lux, you're saying 45% of console buyers 2024 were 44-plus-year-old. Future shift. It's our duty. If you're 30 or above, it's our duty to pass on the console lineage. Is that a true statistic, though? 45% of console buyers in 2024 were 44 years or older. Lux, you got to tell me where you got that info, because that sounds unreasonable, honestly. Like, that sounds kind of crazy. The PS6 will cost as much as a PC without actual PC performance. You think he knows? He likely knows more than we do. I mean, I doubt the PlayStation 6 is going to cost as much as a high-end PC. You know, that would defeat the whole purpose of a console. The console's supposed to be an affordable piece of hardware that, won't give you the absolute best performance, but will give you good enough performance. Pretty good performance overall for what you're paying. Boss, don't start. It's too early. Consoles are boomer tech, to be fair. Game streaming's not that far off. You streamed a game on xCloud Gaming on your Amazon Fire TV Cube. Flawless operation. Yeah, game streaming is going to be the interesting angle of all of this. I am curious to see how game streaming evolves in the coming years, because I still don't think it's anywhere near being the main way that people play games, but at least for the younger gamer, as they, as streaming tech improves and that becomes a more viable option, that may be the first way that they, a lot of young kids interact with video games in the future. So I could see it maybe latching on there. But I do think that the console, people try to make it seem like we haven't had this conversation over and over and over again. And every single time, the conversation turns out to be false. And don't do it, boss. Don't do it. And the conversation I'm talking about is that consoles are dying or they're on their way out and they're going to be totally irrelevant and everybody's going to move on. And it's like, no, that's not what's going to happen, at least in my opinion. I don't think that that's going to happen at all. Could we see it stagnate, to where it's just kind of like doing what it's always done? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could make the argument that we're kind of seeing that now, right? And that's not a bad thing, but, from a capitalistic business perspective, you have shareholders you're beholden to. Yeah, you might see it as like, well, it's good, but we got to keep it growing, right? When was the last time Netflix announced people playing their games? I don't know, dude. I honestly forget sometimes that Netflix has a gaming division, if I'm being totally honest. Lux, you're saying Matt Piscatella reported it? Okay. Yeah, he heads up the NPD group. Well, it's really interesting, dude, because people are betting against Sony big time. And I'm really curious to see how it plays out. There are people, it seems like there's a divide. Like, you basically either believe in the console, you believe in PlayStation, you believe that things are going to get better or they are good and they're going to get better or just be perfectly fine, or you're betting against it. You think that Sony's basically going in the wrong direction. The console's going to become irrelevant or is decaying and PlayStation's lost their way. And it's interesting to see that there's such a polarization around Sony and around PlayStation, I guess, in this way, because even just 5 years ago, it wasn't like that at all. There was hardly any polarization. Not everybody was on board with PlayStation, but there wasn't this kind of like divide where half the people think it's just all downhill and half the people think it's going to be fine or great. Most people were in the camp of it's good and it's probably going to get better. Now, you could argue that a lot has happened in the last 5 years to maybe change people's opinions, but the timing of everything is what's fascinating to me. But guys, listen, as we dive deeper, hold on, boss, I'm gonna have to remove you if you can't behave. Come on, come get your shoelace. You know you want it. Before we dive any deeper into the conversations today, I do want to ask you to please take a moment and hit that like button. If you enjoy the streams, if you enjoy hanging out here, hit that like button. It really helps more than you know. And consider supporting the channel. Consider becoming a channel member. We're going to be doing a members lounge today once the stream is wrapped up. So if you are a member, please look forward to that. Consider gifting memberships. Okay, we have a weekly goal we're striving for. We have a daily goal we're striving for. So we'll see if we can hit that stuff. And consider dropping a super chat. or a direct donation. These are all ways in which you can support the channel directly. Are you saying you finished my live just a few seconds ago and now you're here? Oh, perfect timing. Perfect timing. And Ray comes in. RU46 N2 Ray comes in, kicks off the member train, hopefully member train that we'll get going today. He drops a member gift for you guys. Ray, thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, I still appreciate it, Ray. You know, I still appreciate it. Anything and everything helps. Now, when it comes to what this Netflix CEO or president, I should say, had to say about the PS6, I will actually read you the full quote in just a moment. Wait, where'd the member goal text go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Michael Lynch with a $5 chat says, here's a few dollars to read my last statement. I'm curious. Okay. Let me check that out, Michael. And thank you for that. Michael, you're saying the PS6 won't even cost as much as the PS5 Pro, $599 at most. They want the most amount of people to buy it. $699 would price a lot of people out of buying it. Yeah, it is an interesting statement. We've had this discussion before, and it's definitely going to be, I would say, the most prevalent discussion leading up to the announcement of the PlayStation 6 price, which, you know, is years away, but still, the idea that the PS5 Pro right now is a $700 console, the idea that the PlayStation 6 is supposed to be significantly more powerful and more capable than the PS5 Pro, it does naturally lead somebody to believe that the PS6 is either going to be $700 or more, not less. However, the part of your statement that I think is the most true, and something that regardless of how expensive the PS5 Pro is right now, what is true is that Sony wants to move a lot of PlayStation 6 units. They want to move a massive amount of units. I said before that unless there's some kind of major philosophical shift in Sony's approach to the games business, which there could be, we are going to see, you know, a whole new management and a whole new Sony CEO approaching the PS6 generation. That shift could be something along the lines of, so the PS6 is more of like not a half step, but we're not treating it like a full blown new generation as much as it's just an extension of the PS5 generation even further. And in doing that, they're basically going to continue, like any PS6 consoles they sell, they might count on top of PS5 consoles, and they might just like kind of bunch them all together. That would be a major shift. That would be a major change, and that would show a lack of confidence and conviction in the overall success of the PlayStation 6 in the next generation. However, based on what we know when it comes to PlayStation, based off of how they have handled every generation, it's much more likely that no, they're just going to approach the PlayStation 6 generation the exact same way they approached the PS5 generation and the PS4 generation. Maybe, again, you know, more similar to the PS5 generation for sure. That's not a maybe. That's actually going to be what happens, because the PS5 generation has been very successful for them. And in doing that, like, yeah, the whole point of the PS5 is we need to sell tens of millions of units. We need to have this be a mass, like just a mass appealing product that is going to overall reach a large audience. If they price the PS6 at $700, that's not going to happen, period. If they price it at $600, it can still happen, but it's still risky. And the biggest risk of a $600 PS6 is that it won't be able to move as many units as quickly and as rapidly and as efficiently as the PS5 did. And if that happens, it's going to overall look bad for Sony, because it's like, well, the price may be higher, I don't know if they'll gain more profit from it, but this is the struggle that Sony is. This is the difficult position that they're in right now, where they Sony needs to really decide if they're going to push to have the PS6 generation be as successful as the PS5 and PS4. And if they do that, or if they are going to do that, how are you going to make that happen? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to, again, convince PS5 players right now that have a very capable console, that games run really well on it, you know, most of the time, and look really good on it? What are you going to show with the PlayStation 6 that gives that sense of urgency? Like I need to go upgrade to this now. I mean that's the biggest struggle that Sony's facing right now, and I'm just it is years away, but I truly am so intrigued by the idea of Sony rolling out the marketing for the PlayStation 6, and like what are they going to do to win people over? Because I know the internet isn't real life, but from what I can tell, it does seem like generally speaking, people are not anywhere near as enthusiastic at the prospect of the PlayStation 6 generation as they were for the PS5. In the years leading up to the PS5, 2018, 2019, even maybe beginning in 2017, if we want to go that far back, people were excited at what the PS5 could be. People were, I hardly saw any negativity towards the, the idea of the next generation of the PlayStation 5. And that to me is where I think Sony is in a very different position right now, where I am seeing way more negativity and way more concern, if not concern, just disinterest in the next generation, compared to, I guess you could say, the same time last generation or with the PS4, right? And that to me is something that Sony has to absolutely be aware of, because if they're not aware of that, they're not going to know how to properly navigate that. And it means they risk going in blind. Now, you would assume Sony's aware of this. I mean, how could they not be? If they obviously have the data, and the data reveals to them more answers than what I would have right here, just looking more broadly at what people are saying, and the minimal data that I'm privy to, right? But Sony, I think there's just no denying, like, they probably realize that it's just going to be a lot harder this time. You're not going to have nearly as much momentum going from the PS5 to the PS6. You're going to have to do more to build that momentum. Drive by Joe, you're saying that's why you make it more expensive, because supposedly it's not a must have if they are going with cross gen gaming. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It seemed like Jim Ryan had concern with the PS5 that it wasn't going to do as, like, it was at risk of not doing as well as the PS4. It was at risk of seeming much less, um, you know, seeming like a much less desired product comparatively speaking to the PS4. And I remember him talking about that in interviews, and like making it clear that, like, yeah, like his major focus is like, we want to move people to the PS5 faster than ever before, more rapidly. And to be fair, he had the disadvantage of having to do that with a shortage and a pandemic. But you could also, boss, you know what? This is, hold on, guys. Sorry. Boss just tried to attack a bird on the window, and I can't believe he just did that, dude. I mean, I can believe he tried to attack a bird, but the way in which he did it, it's like, okay. He almost knocked the PlayStation 5 Pro over this time. He almost knocked it over, which would have been bad. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, you could almost make the argument. Yeah, he literally tried to just jump out the window, dude, and the window's closed. Like I can't believe what I just witnessed. Garrett, you're saying I love how PC guys keep wishing for the downfall of PlayStation and acting like the PS6 won't do numbers as well. Well, that's the thing about the PS6 that I do have this level of confidence in it, Garrett. People talk about the PS6 as if it's going to be some people do anyway, as if it's going to be irrelevant and ultimately it's going to be a failed generation for Sony, and that's not going to happen. The only way that would happen is if they really screw something big up with it, something major, and they have like a completely crappy reveal or something, which I don't think that'll happen. There are many things that could go wrong, but I think Sony's been doing this long enough, and they seem to have a general understanding of like what they need to do at the bare minimum, for a new console cycle. But I think it'll do well, generally speaking. I think the PS6 it does have enough momentum that yeah, it'll still do well. But the question is, can it do as well as the PS4 and PS5? And that's a tough one. The biggest impasse to the sales of the PS6 is the PS5. Exactly. And Sony's in this kind of awkward position where it's like they can't just sever the PS5. I mean, they could do whatever they want. But if they were to just sever the PS5 and try to force like a new generation with the PS6 in a traditional way where it's like, we're going to force you to upgrade, I think they're at huge risk, a massive risk of finding out that a lot of people are just not going to move. A lot of people are just going to stay where they're at. And yeah, I think that would tank it. So they're gonna, like I said, man, they're gonna have to thread this needle of like, they have to make it seem like a worthwhile upgrade. They have to make it seem like a convincing next generation leap. They have to do so while simultaneously making it pretty clear that games are going to be cross-gen. And they're going to have to do some insane marketing for the PS6, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how they thread that needle, but that's the struggle. You all better be excited about the future of PlayStation on PS6. You have most likely 2 years until the PS6 releases. 2028 is the projected year. Well, that's like 3 years at this point. Well, that's almost 4 years. It's like 3.5 years, give or take. I mean, I'll be there day one for the PS6, absolutely. But I am just more broadly interested in, it's like when people say like, well, why do you care about console sales? It's like, I don't really care about console sales in that like it means much to me personally. It's just more along the lines of like when I think of the PS6, I do wonder like what are the sales going to look like for that? Because if the sales are not matching the PS4 or the PS5, at that point we might be looking down the barrel of, oh, okay, I guess maybe this is the turning point for console gaming. The Switch 2 is about to be revealed, and nobody seems to have doubts about the Switch 2, but people have way more doubts about the PS6. You could make the argument that maybe that doubt comes from a position of it feels too early to talk about the PS6, which I could understand that. It is a bit early, but without a rival hardware to go against them, Sony can set any price they want and expect their consumers to pay it, and I don't blame them for thinking that because they usually pay up. Yeah, that's another way it could go. But again, it's like we have to keep in mind what Sony's approach to the console market has been since day one. Since day one, when they entered the market with the PlayStation 1, Sony's goal and ambition is we want to reach the masses. Tens of millions of sales, hopefully. And the PS1 was a resounding success, selling over 100 million units. PS2 was an even bigger success, hitting over 150 million units. PS3 was really the only, I would say, road bump, but even then they still managed to get like over 85 million. PS4 almost 120 million. PS5 seems like it's easily on its way to over 100 million. The notion that Sony would forego that in favor of we just want to basically ensure that the PS6 is an ultra premium console at a very high price point, and anybody who buys it, we're going to make a really good profit off of it. Um, would they be willing to sacrifice more than half potentially? I mean, likely more than half of current PlayStation owners and buyers, prospective buyers, I should say, in the name of ensuring that if we only sell 40, 50 million PS6s, but we're selling them and we're making like an incredible profit off of each one, is that going to be worth it? I mean, to me, that seems like you'd practically nearly be killing your own uh, business model. You'd be bringing a end to it. I think that's really the danger of the PS6 generation. MBG, they don't really have doubts about the next PlayStation. They're just trying to talk negatively about PlayStation and will it into existence. I mean, I definitely see that, Michael. Trust me, man, like seeing the conversation around PlayStation decay the way it has is truly disheartening because I don't I don't understand what people have such a problem with, you know? There was stuff floating around on X yesterday from Sony regarding an earlier PS6 release. An earlier PS6 release would be a bit surprising considering they can just kind of ride out this gen with GTA 5 and the games that they have lined up and solid third-party support. So the only thing that I feel like would pressure Sony for an earlier release would be maybe the Switch 2 combined with the next Xbox, which is apparently just going to be like a PC thing, coming sooner than expected. But yeah, man, when it comes to the conversation surrounding PlayStation, seeing how it's decayed seemingly in so many. Did I say GTA 5? I meant GTA 6. I could have swore I said GTA 6. No, we didn't speak about The Last of Us yet. We'll get to that. And yeah, that conversation decaying the way it did and is disheartening because it just seems like I don't know, man. It seems like people I don't know how to describe it. People talk about the PS5 generation as if it's so dramatically different than the PS4 generation, as in it's so bad or it's so disappointing or it's so this and it's so that. But in reality, the PS5 generation has been stronger than the PS4 generation. Like that's the objective reality in terms of Sony's output and the cadence at which that they've had these big types of games that people expect on top of partner games. That's not me saying you have to like the PS5 generation better than the PS4. I'm not saying that. No, I mean everybody has their preference. But it's the idea that people speak about the PS5 generation as if it's been so much worse. And it's like that's just simply not true. People, I think, completely overlook like the first 2 or 3 years of the PS4 and fail to realize that like the PS4 generation's greatest um, asset, at the time of its launch, and for the first year or two was Xbox's failure. You know, the best stuff, the things that people remember the most from the PlayStation 4 gen started really kicking off in 2016, leading into like 2019 and 2020 in that gap of time. And it's crazy to me that like when you look at what we've gotten for the PS5 gen so far, the only thing I can surmise, and this is a bit of a stretch, but it's just like the only thing that makes sense to me is like, are people now much more disinterested? I don't know why I'm saying it that way. That just sounds like a confusing way to put it. Are people much less interested in the types of games that Sony basically knocked out of the park during the PS4 gen, and going into the PS5 gen, people just felt like, well, I don't really want this anymore, or I don't like this as much anymore. It seems to me like gamers really are that fickle. I get that sense. Just again, I'm basing a lot of what I'm saying off of anecdotal shit that I see on the internet, and that how much complaining I see, and how much whining I see, and how much hate I see thrown towards um the different PlayStation games, and like what they're doing, and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like people look back at this gen and they're like, they seem to completely disregard that like Sony had quite literally the strongest launch lineup of any generation they've ever had at the day one with the PS5. Not too long after that, they have games like Returnal, games like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, games like Horizon Forbidden West, games like God of War Ragnarok, games like GT7. And that's what's crazy to me is people just pretend like, no, nah, it's all disappointing. And it's like, I don't get it. Like, what isn't that what did numbers for Sony back in the PS4 generation? Isn't that what people were celebrating during the PS4 generation? The answer is yes. And for one reason or another, dude, I don't know, people just kind of started to slowly turn on it. And there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or a reason. And I guess there doesn't have to be. If you're Sony, they're probably perplexed too. Sony's probably so confused why people hate Horizon. Imagine that. Like, imagine you're Sony and you're like, I don't get it. Spider-Man was disappointing, masochist mode. Spider-Man 2 could have been better. But again, I feel like people make it sound like it was some kind of shit show. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. Illegal Monkey, member for 7 months. Thank you, buddy. Says arcade ports lack the graphics / gameplay as old consoles couldn't match up. Now all you miss with the PS5 versus PS6 game is ray tracing and some added effects. And yeah, and see, that speaks to the problem that Sony might have, Illegal Monkey, where it's like they can't really afford to. Sony, in my opinion, can't afford to risk the PS6 seeming just like a PS5 Pro. You know what I mean? Like they have to do something, and I don't know what it will be. That's the tough part. I don't know if it'll be like AI maybe, but they're gonna have to do something to basically point to it and be like, check out what the PS6 can do that the PS5 and even the Pro can't do at all. And that's going to be tough, dude. That's where like people make the argument like maybe Sony should bring back exclusives, because like you could do that. Like the PS6 can play this game that's not available on the PS5. But then the question becomes, are those games really going to be strong enough to move people over? Especially when games like these major third-party games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, the sports games, they're going to be supporting the PS5 for probably 10 fucking years. I don't think Sony has enough, cachet, I guess you could say, when it comes to their own IP and their own exclusives to, like, if they were to make them true exclusives. Like, I think if you do like an exclusive Bloodborne game, new Uncharted game exclusive, The Last of Us Part 3, and these are all PS6 only, I think it moves units. Yeah, I think it definitely brings people over quicker. But does it really do enough to build that momentum that, like, yeah, now we're like pacing ahead of the PS5, or we're going as quickly as the PS5 sales wise, or we're ahead of it? I don't know. I really don't know that Sony has, again, the cachet and the type of games that can really do that for a very expensive, because it will be an expensive console. There's no doubt about that. I don't know that they can do that. PlayStation is on top now, but this is a fickle victory as the tides are and will change. PlayStation is not setting themselves up to be relevant and on top for the long run. Well, I mean, that's a tough one, because it's like nobody really knows what the long run looks like. Every company obviously has some kind of vision of what they think gaming is going to look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, but only one of them is going to be right, or maybe none of them are going to be right. Maybe there's some other random party out there that that hasn't risen up yet that's going to actually be the one. But I mean, I look at Sony and it's like the question, the only question that I think is truly relevant for PlayStation and PlayStation alone, not Nintendo, because I think the answer for Nintendo is already there. Like, we're going to get that answer literally starting April 2nd. But the question is, like, Sony, can you keep the tradition, like the way that you've done things, the traditional business model that you've benefited from so much with your console, your storefront, your first party games, everything you built for 5 generations that has served you so well and made you so much money and got you to this point? Can you keep that thriving? Can you keep that relevant? That, I think, is the question that the leadership team, Hideaki Nishino and company, that they face right now, where it's like everybody who did it for the PS5, everybody who did it for the PS4, the PS3, the PS2, the PS1, they're all gone now. Now it's your turn. And things are different. There's no doubt about that. Like, yeah, this isn't 2013 anymore. This isn't 2020 anymore. This is, I mean, by the time the PS6 comes out, it's going to be 2028. And things have changed very rapidly in the last 5 to 6 years, and they're continuing to change rapidly. So that's a really, really tough question, I think, for Sony to answer. But they're going to have to come up with something, because they can't just say, no, we can't. If they do that, they're basically giving up on their own business model that has served them so well. I think what makes the most sense is a hybrid approach. That's my prediction for the PS6. It's early, but I think Sony is going to take a hybrid approach where they're going to distribute their eggs evenly. Half the eggs are going to go in the traditional model basket, and they're going to continue to push that and make and try to keep that as relevant as possible, because that's in their best interest. But they're going to take, if not half their eggs, at least 1/3 of their eggs, and put them in the break glass in case of emergency, whatever. Like, we have to continue to expand and position ourselves. We have to position ourselves that if suddenly, it becomes clear after the first year or two of the PS6 being out that this is not going well, or this is, if maybe not going well, but it's like, there's no question that the PS6 is not touching the PS5 and the PS4. It's just not happening. Then they have to, if they were wise, they would position themselves to have something to kind of fall back on, to lean into a little bit more, in case of an emergency, I guess. Devil Shooter, well, really quick, Masochist Mode, a member for 6 months. Is anyone ready for the KFC console release tomorrow? Wait, that's tomorrow? Bro, this is real? This is happening? Are you serious? Devil Shooter saying, MBG, in my opinion, PlayStation losing exclusives is part of the reason for the doubt. It's a psychology thing dating back to the beginning of gaming. That's why Nintendo are keeping a lock on it. Yeah, there definitely could be truth to that, Devil Shooter. Absolutely. It's very much a possibility that Sony basically, kind of breaking that seal. Oh, wait, yeah, shit. Tomorrow is April 1st. Damn, you got me early, Masochist Mode. You got me early. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the idea that Sony broke that seal and they committed the cardinal sin the cardinal sin of relinquishing their exclusives and putting them on PC. I don't know that that's true though, because like it doesn't seem to have negatively impacted their sale. Now, to be fair, it hasn't really grown their sales of their games, but it hasn't negatively impacted them either. I think Sony's really in this kind of in between place right now where putting GTA 6 aside, GTA 6 is going to cause a surge of growth for PlayStation. And that's great. They're going to love that. But in terms of PlayStation growing their own brand and their own business and the their console and the console business, I really think they're in this kind of middle place where it's like what's truly going to work versus what is just going to keep things as they have been versus what's going to work against us, what's going to be to our detriment. Um, those things I think are not as clearly laid out and defined as they previously were, especially when you see Microsoft making the type of shift they are. And Sony can't copy what Nintendo's doing because Nintendo planted their flag and said, we're not like, it's not even that they planted their flag. They're just like, we're not doing things the normal way. You could make the argument that Nintendo was the first one to really do something weird and different, and it worked. And they're like, yeah, screw you guys. Like we're just this is what we're gonna do now. And Sony can't, you know, nor Microsoft. Nobody can really just like say we'll just do what Nintendo does. Like it's not you can't do that. That won't work. Sony also can't turn and say we're just gonna do what Microsoft does because they would collapse their own console business overnight if they did that. Or at least that's the huge risk. So Sony has to be the one to kind of now make the decision. No. We have J Dash, the duelist, a member for 6 months. He says, Trails fans are eating good this year. 4 games for the series will be localized / released this 2025. I'll be buying the PS5 physical version for all of them. Yeah, I never did play that series, Trails. I've heard about it. I've heard it's pretty good, but definitely not the type of game I think I would get into. Planet Schlorpian says Sony's PC strategy is convoluted. Planet Schlorpian, what do you think makes it convoluted? I'm curious. Gamers are drastically underestimating how deeply the current economic realities of the world are going to impact the gaming industry in the coming years. I mean, yeah, that's probably a major part of it. Microsoft's probably looking forward to it because, in that type of reality, in that type of economic reality, if it does come to pass in the way that you're kind of framing it, something like Game Pass definitely, y- you know, I think it definitely helps them. Mm. Planet Schlorpian, you're saying irregular releases, buggy launches, lack of consistency, etc. This is the industry in survival mode. Well, is it possible that Sony could look to maybe no, scratch what I was just thinking. I was going to say like maybe they're going to just kind of focus on rather than like grow, just maintain. But I just don't think that's realistic. I think that the whole reason Hiroki Totoki was promoted to CEO is because I think that there's a lot of faith that he will actually know how to grow the PlayStation business and not have it stagnate or shrink, obviously. They clearly didn't have that type of confidence in Kenichiro Yoshida because he seemingly lost a lot of money. Is there any reason the Days Gone remaster is so far away? It seems pointless. I don't know, dude. It is kind of weird. I was thinking of that too. I'm like, why? I can't imagine they're still working on it. Yeah, I heard about that, Terrence, and that sucks. That sucks. Hopefully that doesn't actually happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. The PC ports seem sporadic and inconsistent in length of time between PS5 and PC releases. Well, that's another big question mark. Um, no one really seems to know what Sony's strategy for PC is going to be after The Last of Us Part 2 releases. When we think about ports, what other games could they port that they haven't already? And not counting Bloodborne. We're not counting Bloodborne. Putting Bloodborne aside, I mean, how many are really left? Apparently, GT7 and Demon Souls aren't happening for whatever reason. Uh, what's the alternative? Dark Horse says, "Bro, they took the stand away from the new PS5s." Indeed, they did. Sony just released a new monitor for PC, more investment. Well, to be clear, I don't think that Sony's getting away from PC. It's just that the question is more about the broader strategy of like, so like, is anything going to change, or is this just kind of it? Like, this is just how, like, it's just going to remain kind of sporadic and unpredictable and a bit all over the place. Or does Sony try to get much more serious about having a bigger impact on PC alongside console? Do they feel like they're going to need to do that if they're nervous the PS6 won't really, you know, if it's not going to have the type of impact that the PS5 and the PS4 did, would they be ready to do something like that? I mean, rational thinking tells you yes. Yeah, no, they didn't cancel. As far as we're aware, they did not cancel Wolverine. No. You're surprised PS Plus isn't on PC yet? You thinking PS3 remasters? I was thinking of that too. I was like, maybe one of the reasons why they haven't really done like, Killzone collection or God of War collection or Resistance collection or all these different collections they could do for PS5 is because maybe they kind of feel like once they run out of uh, PC games to port, you know, um, and they're kind of waiting for the next big releases, and then they got to give it like a year or two to bring those PC versions. In the interim, maybe they're like, now we'll start putting out these remasters as like extra revenue sources. It's a possibility. Don't know if it's likely. Infamous, yeah, I mean they could do an Infamous collection. These are these are things that I think Sony is purposely avoiding because they're kind of saving them for if they feel like they ever need them. That's my guess. It could simply be that they're just not interested in those IP, but I mean, for God's sake, we see Sony out here allowing Bandai Namco to publish and resurrect old PlayStation IP. I mean, I, Sony's strategy is a little strange. I'll be honest. It's a little strange. Like I'm not sure what's up with that. Other than like the only thing I can surmise when it comes to Sony taking these like older IP and putting it out there, I just assume they want zero risk. Like for example, if Patapon 1 and 2 completely flops or everybody's golf completely flops, like that doesn't hurt Sony at all. Like Bandai Namco eats that damage, not Sony. But that's kind of, I don't know. It's a weird strategy. I don't quite understand it. Like, would it really hurt you that much, Sony, to just do it yourself? Maybe I don't know. Maybe it would. Maybe they're like, yeah, it would hurt us. You think Infamous 1 and 2 would be awesome? A Motorstorm and Resistance collection. By the time you need them, it's already too late. Possibly. Well, good luck with that, Ice Queen Gaming. Yeah, that's rough. Good luck. What? PS6, you crazy. PS5 came out 3 months ago. Who's going to tell him? Who's going to tell him? I'm blackpilling you on Sony. You'd like to see Sony contract out Toys for Bob for a Jack and Daxter remake collection? It is possible we could see Sony, if they get even more comfortable with this, maybe start to license out some of their other IP. Like we have seen them do that with Sackboy and I think others in the past. So it's a possibility, man. Well, hey, apparently they are licensing out an established IP to um, People Can Fly. So there is that. It's not about blackpilling on Sony. We just want them to continue to succeed and make some of the best games in gaming. Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I just don't want anything to happen at the expense or the detriment of the things that, well, I enjoy. I mean, I'm assuming that's how pretty much everybody feels, right? Um, my question is how Sony is going to capture the excitement again, or if they plan to do that. I mean, I often wonder, like, does Sony feel like they have to? I mean, the last State of Play they did, it I don't know. It seemed honestly like ultimately it was somewhat mixed. Like half of what I was seeing were people saying that they loved what they saw and they were excited, and half of what I was seeing was people saying they hated it and it was the worst thing ever. And my question is like, I don't know how they're going to like. How does Sony get back to a place where it's not that, where it's like 80% of people liked it and the vocal minority 20% nobody's really paying attention to that. It like, that doesn't seem to be the way it is anymore. It seems like it's more even. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. You're saying the Jeff Keighley poll. I mean, again, it's the internet. It's one person, but it represents a large group of people voting. And if you look at something like that, like you look at that and it's like, oh wow, people hated it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. Could it have been better? Of course, they can always be better. But I enjoyed it. But I see that that's not like as common of a thing anymore. And so I don't know what Sony I don't know. Sony, I don't want to say they're in a rut because I still think they're doing a lot of things well. Like for example, I mean, I like we have Death Stranding 2 coming up, and I know that for a lot of people that's like not enough, and I'm not saying like one game alone should be enough, but it's like okay, and then after that we're going to get Ghost of Yotei. And then by the time we get Ghost of Yotei, we probably would have already seen Wolverine gameplay and Saros gameplay. And so like these things can start to kind of stack, maybe Marathon as well. These things can start to stack on top of one another and create this momentum. Um, but yeah, right now it just seems like they're kind of just chilling a bit where it's like, we'll show you Death Stranding 2 and we'll have to see what the next State of Play or showcase brings because I mean, yeah, like right now it's literally just right now, it's Days Gone Remastered and Death Stranding 2. Hold on, one sec. You're saying possibly at the end of the generation, a ton of games are going to be coming out? Yeah, we got to be careful tomorrow. It's April 1st, April Fools. You're gonna see a lot of nonsense. Yeah, dude, we haven't seen anything of Wolverine. I mean, that game's got to be ready to show, right? That game's got to be ready to show. They won the console battle, and the prize of that victory will forever be unrealistic expectations. This is Shuhei Yoshida's fault. He did this. He had the greatest run of first party and consistency. Herman Hulst can't keep up, bro. The June Xbox Showcase. The June Xbox Showcase is going to be a fascinating one because Microsoft's just straight up, like Phil Spencer's just straight up saying, like, you're going to see PS5 logos on everything they reveal. Not everything, but he didn't say everything, but the assumption is almost everything. I imagine they're going to get maybe more viewership now on their showcase. Boss, stop trying to bite my mic. Okay, if that happens, that'll be the day, bro. That'll be the day. That's a lot of confidence you have there. You think Sony's going to have the best showcase since 2020 at the end of May? I'd welcome it. I mean, it's past due. So, I mean, we talked about this yesterday for a little bit. I'm not going to go on it for too long, but yeah, Sony definitely needs to have a showcase. But when it comes to, what the president of Netflix was saying about the PlayStation 6, he's just simply saying that he doesn't think 8 and 10-year-olds are excited for the PlayStation 6. He doesn't think the younger generation is excited for the PlayStation 6. He believes that basically, boss, get away from that. That basically, the younger generation expects to play whatever they want on any screen and any device. And that the idea of a console, like a premium piece of hardware or console that you hook up, that's what you go to play certain games is just not, it just like doesn't compute. Unless it's Nintendo. See, that's what's interesting though, is that like, that's where I think the argument that Nintendo just naturally more broadly appeals to kids and younger generations. Like, I think that's the kind of advantage that they have. But all right, I can't keep him in here. I got to ship boss out, bro. He's trying to attack birds. You gotta go. No, that's all right. I tried to bring him back in. I did. I tried to bring him back in. Maybe he would behave this time, but he just immediately. It's because we have a bird feeder out there, and we have to move that. Because when we put that bird feeder up, I didn't have the setup that I have right here, and so he jumps up on the desk and he believes he can reach the bird feeder and attack those birds. And it's like, bro, there's a window. You can't get the birds. I'm sorry. Chris says he is single-handedly carrying the PS5 generation with all the games he buys. Damn, bro. How many games are you buying? Let's talk about The Last of Us. Let's talk about Neil Druckmann not admitting, that's a weird way to put it, but confirming that he believes Joel was right. Now, we never actually got an answer to this, but there was, well, it says here, Naughty Dog's groundbreaking Last of Us franchise has posted a bunch of uncomfortable moral quandaries for players to grapple with. Perhaps the most profound of all is the decision made by protagonist Joel Miller at the end of the first game, and fans have debated its ramifications for over a decade now. Naughty Dog boss Neil Druckmann, who wrote the first game's confronting narrative, has definitively weighed in on the all-important question: was Joel right in sacrificing humanity's one potential chance at a cure for the cordyceps virus to save Ellie from an operation that would have almost certainly killed her? IGN asked the cast of HBO's adaptation the same question, with the vast majority showing they lack the decisiveness to survive in the harsh apocalypse depicted in The Last of Us, giving various waffling answers and variations on it's complicated. Druckmann made a far sterner, or had a far sterner response, and says, quote, "Joel was right. If I were in Joel's position, I hope I would be able to do what he did to save my daughter," end quote. Joel's actions have very real consequences, which are explored in the game's sequel. Whether he was justified in his decision remains a matter of perspective. So we did it. Joel was right, bro. Joel was right. I have to say, I'm just a little bit surprised, just a little bit, that Neil was willing to answer that question, because I always thought that that was a question that he purposely avoided or didn't want to acknowledge or answer. But he's just straight up like, no, Joel did the right thing. We have Pash09. Thank you so much, buddy, for renewing your membership. I hope I said your name correctly. Pash09. Good stuff, bro. I really do appreciate that support.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Neil went on Twitter for 1 second and was like, damn, I need to say something positive. Yeah, I mean, I've talked extensively about the ending of The Last of Us 1 and, you know, what Joel did, and I thought, like, yeah, because I mean, think about the alternative. He's like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna go home now. Sorry, Ellie. This doesn't make any sense. You know what's crazy about the ending of The Last of Us, dude, is I remember, like, people really went so in depth. I mean, they really went, like, in depth with the reasoning as to why he did or did not make the right choice. And it's, like, crazy, like, how far people were willing to take their theories. But Green Ninja, you're saying you're buying a PS5 tomorrow, moving over to the console. My Xbox family had life interruptions. Now I have no reason to keep it. Interesting. I hope you enjoy it, man. I mean, you're coming to the PS5 late. You're gonna have a lot of I think you're gonna have a lot to play. A lot that you're gonna be able to catch up on. The real monsters were the humans. All a cure would have done is make the fireflies the big dogs. Man, that would be an interesting DLC, Dark Horse, but yeah, I don't think they would do that. You don't have to fight anybody, Clendry. It's okay. Neil Druckmann agrees with you. He says Joel was right. The Last of Us is a subversive series. The only point of it was to inflict pain and nihilism on the player. A true black-pilled series. Pain and nihilism, my favorite things that I look forward to engaging with in video games, in the medium of video games. I mean, yeah, there was a bit of a nihilistic, I guess you could say, angle to the ending of The Last of Us Part 1, but it was kind of, I would say, padded out by the fact that, well, hey, at least Joel and Ellie have each other. Whereas the ending of The Last of Us Part 2 was just straight up like, and nobody got nobody. Well, at least when it comes to Ellie. Ellie doesn't have anybody. Josh Z with the super chat says Sony pretends that they are a gaming company, but they have gotten rapidly worse at managing the PlayStation brand. It's kind of shocking, honestly. You think so, Josh? I don't know. I'm not fully convinced of that. I do think that they've made some mistakes, for sure. I think that they made some pretty critical mistakes at certain moments where it's like, I'm not sure how you didn't see that coming, but I don't know, man. I don't feel drastically unhappy with anything Sony's doing right now. I will say that my natural inclination, Josh, is that things have not really gotten better. I don't know if that's like the right way to phrase it, but like for the first couple months of 2025, like it hasn't been better. Like Sony hasn't really done much. They did that state of play and they showed off Death Stranding, and those are great things that, are cool. Like, yeah, I'm happy to see them doing that. But in terms of like, again, man, there's something missing that my natural inclination going into this April, May, and June, like the spring and summer time, showcase time. Like I don't know, man. Like Sony's got to do something. Like I can't, I have seen people saying like they're just gonna skip another showcase or whatever. Like maybe they could. They could just do another state of play, but I mean, bro, there's got to be just somebody there, somebody, one person in charge at Sony or at PlayStation that understands. Like, guys, you need to get people more excited again. You need to get people feeling more enthusiastic about what you're doing here because you're I don't say you're lacking. I mean, I guess you could say they're lacking, but it's like comparatively speaking, it's just that there's so much more. Now, granted, maybe that's coming, but keep in mind tomorrow is the day that Hideaki Nishino officially becomes in charge of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Tomorrow is the day that Hiroki Totoki becomes the CEO of Sony. So the big change is happening tomorrow. And that's not an April Fool's joke. That's actually happening tomorrow. And so what that should indicate, what that does mean, is that what we see going forward after tomorrow, it's the start of a new fiscal year, brand new leadership, people who are in charge of these major roles that have never been in charge of these major roles. What this should indicate is that going forward in April, in May, in June, and obviously going into the remainder of the year, things they should be different. I'm not saying they'll be better. They could be worse for all I know, but they should be different. They shouldn't really go down the way that they have the past 2 years, even the past 4 years. There should be something that's distinctly different, for better or for worse. Maybe, we're not really going to see, like, for example, the last state of play is not, you're not going to see anything dramatically different there because the new leadership they're not even in charge yet. They haven't taken their positions yet. So really starting tomorrow, from that point forward, I mean, I know I've said this before, and I must have, I guess I was a bit misguided in saying it when I did. I said previously, like a year ago, I'm like, oh, it's a new era of Sony. But it's like, no, now this is truly the new era of PlayStation and the new era of Sony. Talking new CEO, new PlayStation president, total complete turnover. So that's an interesting take. You're saying Sony has unlimited third-party support. If they focused on releasing one true masterpiece 10 out of 10 game a year, it would satiate fans. I'm not so sure. I mean, I still see people being like, Sony ain't got no games, bro. When they turn up for work tomorrow, Sony's going to be like, April Fools. I keep forgetting that the next state of play is going to be a Borderlands 4 state of play. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. Dark Horse, you think there would be riots if they did that? I mean, there would definitely be some pushback. There would be pushback, dude. There's no way that everybody would just be okay with that. My God, what are these birds doing out there? They're like attacking this food. All right. Kendra, you're saying, wow, Borderlands, yay. Devil Shooter's hyped for Borderlands. I can't say I'm excited for the Borderlands 4 state of play, just because I was never into the Borderlands series. Maybe I'll still tune into it though, you know? I might still tune into it. I mean, Devil Shooter wants me to tune into it. You haven't played it since 2. Mr. Savage says he's excited to see how the Mena Hero project turns out. Yeah, Borderlands is a series that I couldn't get into for one reason or another. Just wasn't feeling it. And I don't think Borderlands 4 is going to change my mind on that. It seems like a good series overall. People like it definitely has a fan base, would say a strong one, and people definitely enjoy it. But yeah, I don't see myself getting into it. You're saying this generation has been good to me. PlayStation Portal, VR2, innovative controller, Game of the Year titles, backwards compatible games. Yeah, I really don't. I don't think the generation has been bad at all. I do think that Sony has lost a bit of the magic, so to speak. You know, in terms of just being able to kind of rally everybody and get people. It's kind of like what OK was saying earlier. Like the expectations have become, damn near unrealistic to manage. And yeah, that is Sony's fault. Like, guys, you did too good. You did too good. This is Herman's fault. It's all Herman's fault. Damn you, Herman. So hardware and backwards compatibility made the generation good? Well, hold on. He listed VR2. He listed the Portal. Okay, well, with VR2, I mean, yeah, that's hardware, but it also opens the door to games you couldn't play otherwise. He says game of the year. So I don't know. Maybe he's talking about some game of the year contender type games. You're glad we stopped blaming Jim Ryan. That's a good question. You're wondering if they're going to make another Pro console after all the complaining of the PS5 Pro. I mean, I would say probably. Yeah. They probably will. Just because the margins on that are so high. Jim was fired. Might as well wait till the PlayStation 6 Pro. I mean, look, there's every chance that they might not make a Pro for the PS6, right? But yeah, I just look at the PS5 Pro and it's like right now you could definitely make the argument that Sony didn't need to make a PS5 Pro. They didn't need to, but they did. And it's selling okay, but selling well enough. And every console they're selling, they're making good money off of. Um, and there are a lot of pro owners who are very satisfied with what they have. So just with that logic alone, I could see them doing it again. Yeah. Astrobot won Game of the Year. You think he's talking about Astrobot? Yeah. PlayStation's making more money than ever. That's why it's going to be interesting to see Hiroki Totoki as the CEO of Sony, because the big problem that PlayStation was facing is they were making more revenue than ever before, more revenue than they ever have, but the profit margins were uh, shrinking. So it's like that is it's a problem, because it's like, even though it looks good on paper that you're making all that revenue, what doesn't look good and what probably leaves the shareholders feeling nervous is like, but like your cut of that is shrinking, and that's what they need to correct, and they've been working on that. They're going to continue to work on that, and I have no doubt that that's Hiroki Totoki's like laser focused priority, and that's why there is this kind of anticipation that things are just going to get more expensive. Not just because of the economy, but because Sony's hoping to get higher profit margins as well. You want a Ratchet and Clank collection on PS5? I'm surprised something like that doesn't already exist, considering we got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I think Sony has made it pretty clear that Ratchet and Clank is a mainstay franchise for them. It's a mainstay series. That's a collection that I think would have worked. Now you can make the same argument for God of War, though. You think Sony spends too much on third-party exclusives and it cuts into their profit margins? Well, with Hiroki Totoki as the CEO, I could see that coming to an end or slowing down a lot. Because think about it, like, Microsoft's not going to have exclusives anymore. And the biggest reason why Sony would feel like they have to pay for these third-party exclusives is to convince people to buy PlayStation instead of an Xbox. Once that is gone, I mean, yeah, it kind of puts Sony in this position where it's like, well, do we really need to spend that money? Probably not. No. Oh, God. I inhaled a cat hair. Your 8 and 6 year olds only play Roblox, but they want to move on from small screens and to consoles for a bigger screen and better performance. That's interesting. Interesting. I'm assuming they play on like tablets or phones right now. Hanzo says people acting like they know all the ins and outs. Laughable. Dude, if there was ever a time I feel confident saying we know like nothing about PlayStation and what they're going to do, now is that time. Yeah. I'm going into April with this mentality that Sony could make some of the big PlayStation specifically could make some of the biggest announcements and biggest changes they ever have, because there's a new CEO, there's new leadership, like I said, and to assume that they're just going to do things the same way, they could, but I don't think that's a safe assumption. Thank you, Hanzo. I've been trying my best to keep up, my workout routine. Got sick there for a little bit, which was unfortunate. But getting back at it. You're gonna hold me to that, Clendry? I mean, it's hard because given what I do here, on the channel, of course I'm gonna have my predictions. I'm like, I still have my own. My predictions at this point are more in line with just like my hopes and dreams, like what I want to see Sony do. I do try to be realistic though, and try to not ignore certain realities when I'm like predicting what they may do. But ultimately, man, like, I mean, they really are in this position where they're the biggest changes. The biggest changes could be right on the horizon. No pun intended. Uh, Black Myth is a Sony third-party timed exclusive. Recent articles are out. This again? Oh, are you talking about um the recent interview? Phil Rosenberg, the SVP of Global Partner Development and Relations at Sony Interactive, said that Black Myth Wukong received tons of support from Sony. Yeah, that doesn't confirm that there's an exclusivity agreement. I think at this point in time, it's absolutely safe to say that there was not an exclusivity agreement. But I think basically, I think Sony just went out of their way to help them, and I think it just, it's like, hey, we'll send over people to help optimize for the PS5 version or whatever. Support doesn't mean uh, exclusivity. Exclusivity deal. Exclusivity deals like need to be disclosed, or at the very least, the biggest thing that I think people who believe that Black Myth Wukong was a timed exclusive for Sony, like the secret deal stuff, the biggest red flag is like, dude, they're not marketing it. That's the biggest, like that tells you everything. There's no such thing as a secret exclusivity deal. There's just exclusivity deals. Part of what you pay for with that exclusivity deal is marketing. Marketing is critically important. Considering how successful Black Myth Wukong was, Sony would have loved to market the shit out of that game, but you know, they couldn't do that. They didn't pay for that. Uh, yeah, I don't think there was any kind of secret deal or anything. I think that's obvious. There's still Xbox coping after Xbox has gone full third party. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been paying much attention, to be honest. I reluctantly, I don't know if I'm gonna continue it or not, but I posted another clip on Twitter yesterday. I'm trying. I don't want to do shorts. I'll be honest. I want nothing to do with YouTube Shorts. I hate YouTube Shorts. And I just feel like it's just gonna clutter my channel too much. It doesn't do anything for my channel as well. So I think what would actually be maybe more useful is just posting clips on Twitter. And I started that yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to continue it though. I don't know. Everybody sucks on Twitter, dude. That like even when I just try to like post over there like just clips and walk away and ignore it and then I like go back to it, it's like everybody fucking sucks. Like that place is truly, I'll be honest, man. I think that's where the degenerates are, man. But I mean, not literally everybody. Of course, I'm being facetious or I'm exaggerating. I mean, maybe like 98%. But we'll see if I can keep doing that or not. You're just waiting for the Black Myth devs to announce they're canceling the Xbox port. I don't think they'll announce that. They'll just never say anything. You're the 2%er on Twitter, unknown. Sometimes it works to get the point across. I mean, listen, if they can pull it off at some point, they still might. I don't know. I'm sure they would like more sales, but Black Myth Wukong was such a success, dude. It made so much money. I think that they're good, dude. They're good. Do I feel I do the absolute minimum to grow the online business? Uh, no, I don't think I do the absolute minimum. But every time I've tried to do YouTube Shorts, dude, like it. I'll be honest. The only thing I've ever noticed is that I get flooded with bots, not X bots. I mean, literally like bot accounts, which is so damn annoying. And they just go nowhere, dude. And even when I remember, like, there was a period of time where I did it for like a little while, and I went to go see, like, okay, how many subscribers did I get from this? I was like, you just got none, or like 3 or something. I'm like, this is like, what the hell, man? What is the point? You know what YouTube's doing now? Um, they're really, really pushing streamers to start rolling ads. So for like the past year, I've had the ability to put ads in during my streams, and I've kept it off because I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, you can't just throw this in here like this. People are gonna get upset. They're gonna leave. They're gonna get annoyed, and it's gonna interrupt the flow. And YouTube's been pushing this, dude, and they're getting more aggressive with this push, and I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. Like, uh, hopefully my channel doesn't get punished algorithmically if I continue to not do ads on the stream, because it's like I am certain that's something that would hurt my channel like more than anything. I think people would be like, "Bro, I'm out," you know? Well, I don't know, okay? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I think it's stubbornness, not so much pride. It's stubborn. It's because, dude, there's a part of me that hates like a lot of what's pushed these days, dude. Like, I'm not the one who gets to decide, what direction things go in, what becomes trendy, and ultimately what people gravitate towards, what the masses gravitate towards. And I don't know, man. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I've seen things change and shift, and it's like, dude, I could, and I've tried it before, and in some cases it has worked. In other cases, it just produced the same results. But there have been times where I've experimented with really trying to just give YouTube what they want, and give, just kind of play into like, this is where the flow is going, and I'm just going to go with that flow. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it works very well. Uh, but I've noticed that I always get uncomfortable with it because I'm just like, but I hate it. You know what I mean? Like in this case, one of the more popular things to do, um, and this is where the stubbornness comes in. One of the most popular things to do now on YouTube, or pretty much any social media website, but especially YouTube, is like be like almost over the top with your presentation of your thumbnail and your title and everything else. And I get it, like, I understand why people do that. It works. It's been proven, and that's just kind of the direction that things have flowed. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just stubborn where it's like, when I make my thumbnails, like, I try to put as much information. Like, I literally try to like write things out on my thumbnails. And it's like, dude, you're assuming people want to read that shit. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't they want to read what it is they're clicking on, like what we're talking about, what it is going to be in the video or the stream or whatever. And I don't know, I see some people succeeding with thumbnails and stuff that I'm just like, I don't even understand how this works, but I guess it does. And I don't know, man. Boss is literally yelling at me. I'm telling you, don't misbehave. Feed boss. I can't feed him yet. I'll give him a little bit. I'm only giving you a couple. Luna 2, I guess. Hold on. All right. You're only getting a few because I don't want you attacking the freaking window. Yeah, no, I hear you. I want to a degree. I want to be like that because that is what it is. But I'm trying to walk that line where I don't want to be too much with it. But yeah, I definitely I think I lean more towards the side of not being too much, not being enough with it. You're saying you don't know what you're doing with your thumbnails and you still got 100K subs. I mean, look, man, another part of it too is like I do treat this as like a business to a degree, you know. I mean, it is, but there's also the reality that like people always are like, why are you just covering PlayStation? Why are you just covering PlayStation? And it's simply just because it's like I can't convert myself to that degree where it's like I can't treat this purely like a job. Because if I do that, I am going to lose what made me interested in doing this in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it's easy for me to cover GTA 6 and you know, people think I'm like I got accused of clickbaiting GTA 6 yesterday. It's like I'm not like that's not clickbait. Like we're literally going over a report. Like an official report from Take-Two CEO about GTA 6. So it's not clickbait. Um but it's easy for me to lean into that because it's like I actually really care about that. What's really difficult is like the idea of, well, if you convert your channel to covering everything, then you got to make sure you're covering everything evenly. And it's like, I'm going to have a massive PlayStation bias. I'll never shake that, obviously. Not that I would want to, because I like PlayStation. But it's just, even if I were to like rebrand and do everything different, it's like, I'm going to lean towards PlayStation naturally. People are going to see that. They're going to pick up on that. And nobody's going to view me as like, you know, a neutral or whatever. Not that I would even want that. But if I was like trying to do that to appeal to a wider audience, even if I got that wider audience, they're going to realize that. So I don't know. That's where the struggle kind of comes in. Just got to go all the way. You think I could easily be 1 million subs if I marketed myself in business successfully? You're probably right. Yeah. I think I stunt my own potential. But what's weird about it is like on a psychological level, it feels like there is a reason for that. There's like a deeper psychological, like psychologically driven reason for that. I'm not too sure what it is, but it's there. Yeah, maybe I'll just go all in, bro, and just I'm gonna have ads on the streams. I'm gonna seek out as many sponsorship deals as I can. I'm gonna do it all. I think my haters are hurting my growth. I mean, probably. They're not helping. The haters aren't helping. That would be the opposite of hating. People are quick to forget. If you focused and be who you are, you can definitely become more respected. Illegal Monkey says you literally need to be more sociopathic to be the kind of person that wants massive attention. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, dude, I look back even like, you know, like 5 years ago. I say that like that's not a long period of time, but like 5 years ago, I don't know. My approach, actually, funny enough, one of the things I wanted to do in the members lounge, which we're gonna head over there soon, I wanted to react to a couple of my old videos with you guys. Just because I was curious, I was kind of teasing that the other week. I told you we would do that in the members lounge, and I wanted to do that just to kind of see what's different. And I'm kind of curious myself, you know, to see more bald streams equals more subs. That's the secret. I need more bald streams. You chill now? You better be. Yeah. No, I am gonna work on that. I know I'm slacking, but the Spotify, at least for sure Spotify, because I just I just got to get moving on that. Because that I'm like certain I'm just leaving money on the table. Because they just have like a partner program like anything else, and the process is very straightforward. Haters are stealing the creatine. I'm gonna start promoting mobile games, dude. I've had so many offers for that, and I've just passed on them because I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do it. I can't. I know none of you would care, but it's like a me thing. It's like, bro, I'm lying to myself. You guys are watching me lie to myself for money. And that is tough, dude, where it's like, I guess if it really came down to it, yeah. If it's like do or die, bite the bullet, I guess I would. You know, I'd be stupid not to. But but yeah, the mobile games I just could never do because it's just like it's fake, man. Like I don't play mobile games. I have zero interest in mobile games, and I mean, I think everybody kind of understands. Like you're just saying this because you're paid to say this, and it's like, yeah. What about Blue Chew? Probably would do that before mobile games. In all seriousness, Raid Shadow Legends, fake it till you make it. All right, well, maybe I will. The next time if I get another mobile game offer, maybe I'll just take it. Screw it, you know? Like you guys told me to do this. No, I haven't seen any of the Doom previews yet. How are they sounding? Are they sounding good? I mean, I imagine they're sounding good. I don't think it looks bad. I don't think anybody thinks it looks bad. Garrett says I would care. I hate mobile games. See? Sony should pay me for the PlayStation promotion. Yeah, right. Okay, he's trying to get in my head. He's like, the only one who cares is the voice of doubt in your mind. I was watching this crazy video today, actually, about like, I don't even know what it was titled. Maybe I'll just show it to you guys in the members lounge. I don't know. But it was like talking about like completely reprogramming your mind and your belief system and everything else. I'm like, this is a bit much. Like it makes sense and I get it and I know it works, but it's a bit much. But actually, we're approaching the hour and 45-minute mark. I'm going to keep today's stream short because I do want to make sure we can do a proper members lounge today. So, guys, we are going to wrap this up, and I'm going to be putting up the lounge. So, if you are a member, please look out for that. That stream's going to go up within a minute or two of this one ending, and I want to react to some of my older content, some of it anyway, and yeah, so guys, I hope to see you over there. Hanzo, you're saying members lounge? What is that? Hanzo, I could have swore you were a member before, bro. It's basically a members only stream where we kind of chill, hang out, talk about different things. It's a little bit more personal since it's a... Okay, I wasn't sure for a minute. I'm like, wait, bro, I'm pretty sure I've seen you there multiple times. I was getting a little worried. We have Phantom Oblong. Nice name. Who renews their membership. Comes back to greatness awaits. Thank you so much for that, Phantom Oblong. React to your Q&As. Re-answer my questions. Bro, I don't even know if I still have those, Devil Shooter. I'll have to look for those. But Phantom Oblong, I hope to see you in the members lounge. And so, yeah, guys, that wraps up for today's stream. Thank you for the support. Anybody who dropped any, I almost said direct donation, super chats, and anybody who became a member, thank you so much for that. Oh, God, Hanzo, please, don't take me back. Don't take me back. But, all right, I'll see you guys in the members lounge. And to everybody else, I will catch you in the next stream. If you didn't, go check out the video I put out today. And yeah, that wraps up. So, all right, I'll see you guys in just a little bit.